help you?
Captain Garcia, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Carlos Garcia? How's it going, sir?
I'm doing great, Captain Garcia. First of all, thank you for getting those signs up last week. The no trespassing signs on the information services side. I appreciate you doing that. When I called you the week before, I had briefly asked about if you'd had a chance to go over the incident with the lieutenant and the two sergeants, and you had alluded that, you know, their concerns were that they had asked me to leave and I hadn't, and we were going in a positive direction. I did not want to stop that and specifically state what my concerns there were. First, the lieutenant still believes that he can tell people who have a license to carry that they'll be arrested if they walk in the building. And that was one of the things that I went up there to address, because officers have done that and continue to do that. I'll be flat out honest with you. I'm irate about that. I'm like, really? I come here to address issues so officers don't get in trouble, and this is the route you're going. Again, going on a positive note, I did notice that the no trespassing signs were still up going into the magistrates area. Did you get a chance to cover that with the city attorney?
Yeah, yes, we did. We're in the process of. For what reason, I'm not exactly sure, but the signs were back ordered. We haven't gotten them in yet, so it's just a matter of us getting the signs in.
Okay.
That's a good thing. When they come in, to be honest, I'm not exactly sure. They didn't give me a date.
Okay. Okay.
But in the meantime,
go ahead.
And I know you got good intent, and that you're trying to help us out and all that, but you know the hard part is not getting the actual signs in just yet. So we're gonna have to kind of play it by ear in a lot of ways. We don't have any issues, hardly any issues with anybody causing us or causing anyone over there any issues. And so I think that's a good thing. Hardly anybody goes by and causes any issues regarding the signs or no parking signs and no trespassing signs.
Right.
So that's a positive.
Right. My thing about that is you're right. It's hardly ever any issue, except for two specific officers, Officer 1038 and Sergeant Ling, both threatened to arrest me if I filmed in that area, and it's because they misinterpret the signs, which is why I was explaining to the lieutenant that while the signs may be a city attorney issue, it's a police training issue, because those officers are violating rights, and if they're not aware of it, then they need to be retrained on it. And again, that's why I was so upset with the way that the lieutenant came out and handled that whole situation.
We're in the process of, I think once we get the signs, and everyone should know by now what the intent of those signs are, number one. And everyone should know right now to probably educate the public, you know, at first. First chance we should always try is always educate the public, right? Even if the signage might not be the right sign, but we want to educate as best we can, because we got to go with what the intent is, right?
Exactly.
And on your certain, I guess in other words, I know you already got arrested for that offense. Hopefully things go well. If it goes, like, I'm assuming it's going to go to court relatively soon, and hopefully things work out where you win the case, right? Hopefully. But you have already gotten arrested, right? So it's going to be until your case goes to trial and gets resolved in court. Probably not going to get probably not going to be 100% happy until that occurs. So, hopefully you win in court, right? And because apparently they had the probable cause to effect an arrest, right? Otherwise you wouldn't have been accepted at the bank's office.
Well, on that, I'm going to be flat out honest with you. The arrest on the 14th of July, absolutely no probable cause. I explained why I was there. I had legitimate business, and I had been directed there by...
Was the case, did they accept the case when you went to the mags, when they took you to the mags?
The city magistrate refused to discuss it with me when I asked why there were the conditions that she placed, and then the county magistrate, they never discussed the details either. They just said, this is your bond. But I mean, that's a legal issue. That's not your issue. Again, that's what courts are for.
Right.
Well,
I was going to make the suggestion. Just we can't turn back the time, right? So what I suggest is that we let this, see how this. Hopefully, you win the case in court. I haven't even checked to see when you're scheduled to go to court or not on this thing, right? Do you know when you're going to court, making an appearance in court?
Well, you have to understand, they've pushed back my courts 5 times now, and they'll continue to do that because I won't plead guilty.
Okay.
And I mean that's just.
You're representing yourself?
I have an attorney.
You got an attorney? Okay, well that's good. And because we can't really, I'm not in a position to drop your case, right? And I think you know that. I don't have the authority at my level to say I want the state to drop your case.
No, absolutely. I mean, again, that's a court issue. My issue and my reason for contacting you, and I want to make sure I'm clear on that. I'm looking to move forward, and again, because I saw that you did do what you were saying, I wanted to thank you for that. And again, I didn't bring up the other issues on the day we were talking because we were moving in a positive direction. And if I started going, hey, your lieutenant was out of line for this reason, then all of a sudden all that goodwill is kind of shot right down the toilet. So
I know his case went to internal affairs, okay, and it was already investigated, and there was no how should I say, the case is already investigated, right? We really can't disclose what the discipline was, right? But it was handled, and hopefully it does not happen again, right? So about that particular incident. However, regarding the criminal matter, that's got to be resolved in court.
No, again, that's not your issue. I'd explained that to Lieutenant Zuniga before, and the reason I was so adamant about getting the proper signage up is so that wouldn't happen to someone else in the future. Because again, like we discussed, if you have a reason to secure an area, by all means secure it, but make sure the public knows. Because as you're aware, the fire department told me I could film back there. Some officers have told me that because...
Let's so we can be on the same page, okay? And I'm all about putting all the matter on the top of the table, right?
Right.
I know you meant that the fire department said that you can do this. Now remember, depending on who told you, the fire department, they're not law enforcement, right? They don't have the law enforcement training, so they might not know the exact law or what the intent was, right? So they may have said, yeah, you can film over there. Who knows? Maybe they told you that because I don't know if you were filming them and they tell you to get out of here and go film the police part, right? But with like here in the central substation, we're an unusual substation in the sense that we have civilians in the back part of the building, of course, that are part of ITSD. I think I may have told you. We have evidence technicians that are assigned out of here, which is a different division from that fall under me. And we have a traffic division, right? All share this building here. All three basic entities, really.
Right. And, I mean, and again, we agreed on that, and I mean, we specifically went over the fact that.
What I was going to tell you is we have a lot of victims that come over here, and I remember you mentioned something about the main reason we try to protect the victims as best we can, right? And we have a lot of family violence victims that come here, and it's a very touchy subject, family violence. It's hard enough to investigate these cases, and it's hard enough, but to try to get people to prosecute these types of cases. And when they come to the substation, they want to be as they don't want to get it. They don't want any attention, right? And understandable. So that's why we really, especially when we have clients. I don't want to say clients, but when we have victims in our substation, then that's when we kind of. I'm assuming that's what happened. That we have people here. We don't want you to videotape it. Could you please not videotape? And that's basically. And I know you're pro police, and I know you understand that. And I think it was just maybe just miscommunication. And I'm hoping that this doesn't happen again. Because I know you're on. You just want to, based on what you told me, you want to make the police department better. And those are some of the issues that we deal with on a regular basis here at the substation. I think it was just a miscommunication. Unfortunately, you got arrested on this. Hopefully, you do win your case, and the matter never happens again. That's basically what I wanted to also tell you.
Right, and again, with where we're at right now, Captain Garcia, quite frankly, coming up on the 1st of September, you're going to have a lot more complex laws about your signage, and
yes.
I will do the same thing that I did then, with the exception of your substation. With your substation, I will simply put that through the Attorney General, because I can't go on the property, and I'm certainly not going to risk arrest to notify those officers of things. I mean, that's what you guys have a city attorney for. I get that, but again, my intent on the 14th of July was certainly not to go where it went with Lieutenant Lopez, but when someone flat out tells me something is a crime and I know it's not, and I'm trying to explain to him, no, you're reading this wrong, and he's telling me, no, you don't understand the sign. And I'm saying, no, wait a minute, it's right here, you're pointing to it, read it. I mean, those lockers are right there for a reason. But where I'm getting at is, on the 1st of September, every subdivision or every substation in the city of San Antonio will be required to remove those external signs that you have. And I know signs don't get taken down. I mean, look, you got illegal tow signs that have been up for over 10 years. Those signs stay up, but the problem, again, the reason that I've gone through the efforts that I have is to stop that from happening in the future. So with your substation, I'm just giving you forewarning now. Check with the city attorney. They'll tell you, yeah, those signs need to come down. But if they're not down on the 1st of September, then the only course of action I have at your substation, instead of talking to someone there again, is to go through the Attorney General and file a civil suit, which I don't want to do. That's exactly why I do what I do, is so that people don't sue. But it's better if I do it than you get 25 people doing a class action suit against the city. So, I mean, I'm being proactive here. This is not a threat. I'm letting you know what you need to do to avoid that. But I also know, because I can't go there in person, that your substation will not get the same level of attention that I provide to the other substations, and say, hey, look, This sign, it's toothless once the law goes into effect. Worse than being toothless, it becomes a crime to have the sign there posted. So,
Right. Well, just know, so you can be on correct. And I'm not speaking for the other substation commanders, but just understand that what the intent of that signage was. And luckily, we don't have too many issues. Usually, when somebody comes in, we ask them, hey, this area is for law enforcement only, even though the signage might not be there. Most people, 99.9% of them, they listen, right? So again, the intent is to get people, victims, the services that they need. You know what I mean?
Well, Captain, we're both on the same page about victims' rights. This is why this is such a big deal to me. One of your officers told a victim who was going there to file a police report they could not come in the building with a firearm. Now, that victim obviously had concern enough to carry a firearm into a police lobby. They knew the law, they knew they had a license to carry, and the officer felt his safety was more important than that citizen's safety. That citizen did the absolute right thing. Like you're saying, 99% of people do the right thing. That person drove there, they went out to their car, secured their weapon, and came back. But when I explained to the officer he was wrong, he just went, no, we can do this. And again, at your substation, because the layout's a lot different, I've had a lot more interviews with officers because they do go through the front lobby, whereas most other substations, they go to the back and go through the back door. But after talking to so many officers and hearing 80% of them say, no one's allowed to bring a firearm in here, I try to explain in a way so they understand why it's important to me, and it's about victims' rights. If a victim of a crime goes to your police station and feels they need to be armed, but they can't make a police report because they're not allowed to be armed, then that's the whole reason that law went into effect anyway. The 411-209 was to protect victims. And
I'll tell you one thing though, just to let you know, we should be getting, we should be getting notification rather soon regarding the new law on September 1. So we get it through our bulletin, so we should be getting advised of what the proper protocol should be regarding that new law pretty soon.
Right.
So,
and you mentioned,
we'll definitely get it for one, huh?
You had mentioned that, once you have the signs up, you'll make sure to do, roll call training, make sure officers are aware of it.
Yes.
Again,
for sure we'll do roll call training regarding the new law. This is citywide, right? And then we'll also do some more roll call training regarding substation. The process here on substation, especially if we don't get the new signs in on time. And to be honest, I don't know when the new signs are going to be coming in, but we're going to do roll call training regarding the new law, and we're going to do roll call training regarding how does that new law apply to the central substation. And we're going to do our best to make sure that we do it properly.
Okay, so to be clear, before I thank you and disconnect here, you are working on removing the illegal no trespassing signs that prevent people from going to the magistrates, but your officers are aware that area is open to the public. Again, for me, I'm like, I understand that the reason the signs were put there, they do need to be moved. For me, that's not an issue. The only issue for me is that I still film by the magistrates, which is at 401 South Frio, and I certainly don't want one of the officers who's been involved and said, we've arrested this guy for criminal trespassing, we can get him again, to go and cause another court issue. Because, I'll win my cases in court. I'm confident of that. Even if I don't, it doesn't matter. That's what courts are for. But it doesn't matter because I can't even get them expunged for 2 years after I win. That's the way the law works. So those arrests will be on my records, for 2 or 3 years after I get, the case dismissed. And I certainly don't want to be arrested again for something that's lawful and have to go through that. So your officers are aware that the parking lot is open to the public.
I don't want to say yes at this time, okay? Because we're still in the process of getting those signs up, and we haven't done the roll call training.
Okay.
And I have to check. We haven't done the roll call training yet because we're still a little bit far off September 1. But I have to take a look at that sign again because I got to go with what the intent is. Now, the magistrate's office, like I was telling you, it's an unusual situation here at Central. The magistrate's office falls under city employment, so I have to contact somebody from the magistrate's office to make sure we're on the same page before I give you a response. I don't want to give you the wrong information that's going to get you in the predicament. You know what I mean?
No, I certainly understand that, and that's what
I'm in charge of the central substation. The magistrate's office falls under different command over there. So
right, and one of the signs is on your property, and one of them is on the magistrate's property. Either way, they're the same sign, but the signs are on two different properties. One of the officers had said, well, you need to talk to them, and I said, well, I already have. And Officer Mart, the magistrate, assures me that their reason for understanding those signs were to protect the police lot or the police alley, and that anyone can park there.
Yeah, when most people go to the mag's office and pay a ticket or whatever, they usually park on the parking area where they, you've seen it, where they, I don't know if they charge them now anymore, but there's a parking space in front of the magistrate's office. I guess, especially if they're not charging and there's space in the front, I park in the front. I don't understand.
Yeah, and you're right about that, but the reason I say what happens is if you come from north to south on Frio, if you're driving southbound, then at the court entrance it says magistrate parking this way, and then you have to pay the $4 parking. If it's at night, it's free. Either way, no big deal. But if you're coming from south to north, then as soon as you pass your substation, the entry there is saying magistrates this way, so people turn in there because that's the first sign that they see, and then they go down and park there. They don't typically notice that no trespassing sign. It is small. It's a legal sign, but as Sergeant Ling pointed out, oh, you see all those signs with lots and lots of words, and I'm like, yeah, those signs have lots and lots of words. I kind of felt he was mocking me by saying lots and lots of words, but I'm like, think about what you just said. Someone driving by that sign at night, going to get a loved one out of jail, they're not reading that sign. And again, if an officer decides for whatever reason, well, there's a no trespassing sign, I can now arrest you for doing what is a legal activity other than the fact that a sign is there. So I understand what you're saying. Most people park there. The old signs that were up used to say no public parking, and that's why I said if that still is the intent, they need to remove the no trespassing sign and put up a legal tow sign so that people don't park there. But then they also need to put up a sign from the public road that's visible that says no parking, because the signs that you have out by the public road are so faded that you can't read them from 5 feet away. And it does say no public parking, but no one can read it.
Well, the good news is I've been here 3 years and we haven't had any issues regarding that. So we do our best to accommodate whoever that comes over here as best we can. It's only when the situation gets a little more. Only when the situation gets a little difficult, I guess, regarding the interpretation of what the intent of those signs are. We try to get 100% effectiveness as far as signage is concerned, but some might not be able to get 100%. You know, we got to go by what intent is and what we're trying to accomplish as a law enforcement agency. You know, so you know, we just do our best, do the right thing. So that's I wish I could give you a better answer, but our intent is just try to do the right thing to help everyone involved. You know, it's just when the situation gets a little difficult is you know, the interpretation of that sign and criminal trespass sign. Again, luckily, I haven't had an issue with that in 3 years I've been here, and it doesn't happen hardly ever. You know, but we'll continue to discuss and be in discussion about this and try to make it clear to understand we're all on the same page as best we can. Is that fair enough?
No, that is fair. I want to bring up one last point because I don't think you were aware of it, but when your officers detained me in that public lobby, the first thing they did was turn off my camera, and that's illegal for them to come up and turn off my camera equipment. I understand that they're going to say that their intent for detaining me and handcuffing me was for officer safety. That's not what they stated. I'm not going to argue that. It doesn't matter. What happened, everyone was heated. What happened, happened. But the fact that your officers came over and the first thing they did was to turn off my recording device versus search me, which is allegedly why they restrained me, that looks really bad to the public. The public goes, yeah, they're not over there checking the guy for weapons. The guy said he's walking out. He's not a threat to them. They've now just snatched him up and turned off his recording device to keep him from recording. And whether that's their intention or not, that's how it looks to the public. So you might want to let your officers know, you know, hey, you can get sued for turning off a person's camera. Now, if you've legally arrested them, that's a different story once they're arrested. But when you're detaining someone, you don't have the legal authority to turn off their recording devices. And I'm sure that sergeant did not know that, but he needs to know it because someone else may file a lawsuit.
Right. Well, thanks for bringing that to my attention. I don't know the exact circumstances of what's considered, because now we're looking at the definition of what is detainment, what is under arrest. Is under arrest mean that you have to be handcuffed or not? You know, now we're going into some legal interpretation of the law right there.
Well, yes, and that would be true. The difference between being detained and being arrested, the legal definition is really simple. You're detained, they can put you in handcuffs. That doesn't mean you're arrested. If you're arrested, they have to have told you what crime you've committed. So while they can detain me for suspicion,
there's different interpretations of that. You know, are you like arrest? Are you free to go? You might not have to be handcuffed, but are you free to go? You know, that technically it could be deemed an arrest. You know, so it all. I mean, that's why we have lawyers and stuff. And
yeah, I think on that I'm going to touch base with you a little later because there are some issues with training. I'm actually going to go through Mr. Doug Green for that to help all of the officers. Maybe they'll get out an email or something. But yeah, there is an issue with that because officers all the time will demand ID and not understand the law. And the law is I don't have to ID unless I'm arrested. And they'll say, well, you're detained. And I say, okay, then I don't have to ID. And they say, well, you're detained and you're arrested. It's the same thing. And so while I know the exact definition of both, most officers don't. And that, again, creates problems when it comes to people's rights, especially like turning off their cameras, taking their property, doing other things like that. So, I mean, I get what you're saying. That's a legal thing, but just for your officer's sake, You know, I'm going to go through Doug Green on this, so it goes across the city to your officers, just because it is an issue that other people who view videos like what I do, there are some shady people out there who will do it just to sue. And my intention is exactly opposite of that, to stop bad behavior and keep cities from getting sued.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks for being on our side. And hopefully this will pass, and it was just a basic interpretation or understanding of the law. I appreciate the phone call. I got to get back to my business over here, and we'll stay in touch.
Okay, I do appreciate your time, and you have a great day.
Now remember, September 1, so we should be getting some roll call training regarding the new law pretty soon. So just FYI.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you, Captain Garcia.
You're welcome. You take care now. Be careful out there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
So, obviously, Captain Garcia does not understand my concerns, why the actions that have occurred are violations of my rights. And like most officers, they're not lawyers, but when they violate your rights, they need to know it's not okay. And trying to educate them is frustrating, because you get what I'm getting here. Ran around, up and down. I'm going to go back to my appointment, turning that off.